Mr. Bowers, again, thank you enough for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure to meet with you. We appreciate your, I know your time is valuable, so at the risk of being rude, let's dispense with the pleasantries and let's just jump in.
Understood.
If that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Normally when we have these meetings, we talk about all of the standards and we spend a lot of time talking about your academic data. Since we've had our test results for quite some time and you've met with our teams and our curriculum coordinators and our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, I'm going to dispense with a lot of the testing information talk, and we're going to get into some more staff-related issues.
Okay.
But I got to be honest with you, the first issue is somewhat staff-related, and that is as a follow-up to your initial test results, we now have EVOS data.
Yes, sir.
I know that that's something that you're very comfortable with, so assume I know the answers to the questions I'm asking you.
Understood.
I want to know that we have a shared understanding of what your EVOS tells you and what it doesn't tell you. So will you spend a minute or two on that for me?
We do, and again, one of the things that we're certainly blessed by, if you will, is the fact that the district does make available these resources and these reports for us to be able to utilize from a planning standpoint. So having that information just gives us, I think, some insight into what's occurring, not only with regards to some of our teams that we have working with reading and math, but really with some of our individual teacher returns. As you know, having worked with it closely yourself, it's a 3-year average on those to which you have working in certain capacities. And as a school, well, we met growth, but we came pretty darn close to not meeting growth.
You were probably one test answer away from not making growth.
About as close as you can
be.
Yes, sir. And a negative 1.98 is not what we feel is representative of the work that's being done within the school. But again, we know that that's what it says and where we need to go from there. The challenge was we had staff members that honestly we had to have some crucial conversations with. They were not meeting growth at all. Matter of fact, we had 6 of our staff members, if I remember correctly, that did not meet growth, and 15 met growth. So it's that type of environment where we have to say, do we have the right people working with the right students?
Okay.
And we found that a lot of those teachers who were quote unquote in the red, if you will, they were with our math team.
Perfect. Well, I needed, again, I don't want to focus our what little time we have on testing specifically, but I needed to know that you were aware of, that you have the opportunity to differentiate with your professional development and your staffing decisions. It is not your academic growth issues are not systemic. To me, they are based on the performance of a few individuals, and I'm confident that you have the capacity to address those issues.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's talk about the, now, as we move into something that I do need to talk about today, and that is staffing and morale and professional development and access to resources and those sorts of things. You're going to be faced with this unique dichotomy because on the one hand, as you mentioned earlier, we've got some folks we've got to apply some pressure to. You know, your math test scores are too low and your growth is not acceptable. On the other hand, you need to build a warm, caring environment for your staff and your families. So talk to me about how you're going to accomplish those 2 impossible tasks in the next 6 months.
Yes, sir. Well, the Teacher Working Condition Survey was from the last state administered survey window. So
yes,
knowing that this is a year and a half now, almost 2
not
years
your
in.
numbers.
Goodness.
In fact, that's the reason why you got your job that summer.
So,
about as tactfully as I can say that.
So I think within that context, we obviously are cognizant of some of those things that have occurred. To speak to the morale piece, perhaps. Again, we believe that basically is more of an embodiment of some things that have taken place. It's difficult to capture morale, if you will.
Yes.
Because it's not necessarily this thing or that thing that will contribute or greaten it or lessen it. It's a multitude of things.
Okay.
So if we now use our survey and say what are those multitude of things, the thing that's really jumped out at me is we talk about our facilities and resources and time. Those are things to which people just hold near and dear. Access to resources. Sometimes it's as simple as moving a copier. Okay. And we had found within the current and previous environment, that a copier and access to it had been guarded, placed in strategic locations, purposeful as it may be.
Summon teachers to Caesar to run a copy.
Sir, I wish I was as eloquent as saying that as you are, but that's accurate. And, you know, folks are wary of coming out and they want real-time access. They need a copy. It's very seldom in our environment, the world in which we do we take the time to do those things in advance. We need it real time. So just simple, moving copiers out into the building instead of bringing them in.
Okay.
We feel will make a difference, those type of things.
Okay.
The other thing is folks had to fill out lists for request of supplies. Well, we got rid of that system. You need something, you ask for it, we make it happen.
Okay.
So subtle changes we feel like will actually go a long way. The other piece you asked about is the professional development. We think that ties back into our EVOS.
Okay.
We have individuals who we just felt did not have appropriate level of professional training in service, if you will, on how to differentiate instruction in the classroom, how to take kids from a growth standpoint who were at one baseline level coming in, one academic performance level, and being able to move them over the course of a year. In understanding that, you know, I have a saying, if you take care of growth, the percentages and proficiency will take care of themselves.
I like that.
So that's where targeting our professional development towards how to really kind of maximize the use of instructional times to be able to yield the greatest student gains.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've talked about your babies a little and how they're doing test-wise. We've talked about your teachers a little, how they're doing test-wise. Your community doesn't appear, based on the test data from your predecessor, just doesn't appear to be that engaged in the leadership or the day-to-day operations. Your homework numbers are somewhat suspect. So tell me about your plans to bring the community into our elementary school.
Well, and that right there in itself it's been a struggle, truth be told. You know, knowing the demographics of the school and obviously knowing some of the conditions we face, we're looking to find new opportunities to welcome the members of our community in. You know, it might be as simple as, you know, we have these, I've orchestrated and I've organized really what are these weekly meetings with the principal. You know? Okay. So what I call it is breakfast with Mr. B. It gives folks a chance to come in before work, before they get there. I'm early as it is. Yeah. Every Monday, kick off the week, sit down informally. We bring in donuts, we bring in bagels, and we give folks a chance just to kind of meet us and talk.
That's awesome.
We've also kind of expanded our efforts to be able to bring volunteers within the school. So we've asked for every one of our home rooms to be able to sign up 2 additional volunteers.
Interesting.
We've asked that of our
staff.
staff.
It's a good format for getting that done too, rather than the cattle call, divide and conquer. I like that. That's very analytical.
So we've really tried to systematize, if you will, that process to be able to get more people in the building, to be able to say, hey, what are their needs? Are they tutoring? Are they helping out with, you know, a spaghetti dinner night we may be having? Are they looking to be able to do something extra and join our PTSO? So yeah, those are some tangible efforts. I've also developed a weekly newsletter, and that weekly newsletter goes out to the community. Now, unfortunately, it's an electronic distribution, so we realize there's some inherent disconnect, but just the fact that we've been able to begin that and create a Spanish version of that as well. We have a translation for it, so we can reach our Spanish-speaking population. So those are some of our tangible things that we've introduced that we hope will start to move more towards that engagement aspect.
Well, my plan was to give you ample opportunity to speak through some of these things, and I'm impressed with your response to each of my concerns. I truly am. It was not my plan to be directive in our meeting, but I do feel like it's necessary for me to finish our meeting with something of a directive.
Understood.
And that is, I believe in allowing principals to allocate resources in their building as best they can, but I also, as a superintendent, reserve the right to offer my input or direction depending on how on your response to it. I'm not satisfied with the way you're using your halftime AP. To me, I hate to be oversimplistic, but either you have a halftime AP that's a building manager and I don't have discipline data problems, or you have a halftime assistant principal who is for lack of a better word, a curriculum coordinator, and I don't have to deal with instructional shortcomings. So working forward and in preparation for our end of the year meeting, I'd like to hear which way you've chosen to go with that.
Okay.
And what your early take is on that. Obviously, books, those sorts of things, I'm not saying a single issue, but I think that delineating that role will provide clarity for your staff and clarity for your staff member.
Duly noted.
Thank you for your time today, sir. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's tough.
Thanks a lot.